Hey friends, welcome back. This is Ashley with Uncommon Roots Homestead, and today I'm over checking on the garden after a storm. So I thought I'd bring you with me and see what's going on. Of course, as soon as I start filming, it is starting to rain a little bit, so we'll see how far we get. But I am so excited. I have been looking for strawberries. I'm a little bit behind, so usually, the earliest you can get strawberries in the ground is like February if you're doing bare root, but usually you would put strawberries in the ground in March. They're cold hardy, they grow early, and a lot of them are early spring bearing, especially in our zone. And I missed that boat. It is May, so I definitely missed that boat. So I've been looking for strawberries everywhere because I have 2 beds that I want to put strawberries in and couldn't find any at all. I went to like 4 different nurseries. And today I stopped at like my final Hail Mary. It's actually a nursery that's not far here from the land. And they had a ton. So I'm going to get these in the ground today. I grabbed Early Glow, and I think I got 6 Early Glow, and then I got 3, what are you? Jewel, and then I want to say I got 3 Ozark as well. I did 3 Ozark. So got a couple different varieties. I'm really excited. They all should bear more than once. So I'm going to carry these over to the garden, and I'll show you what it looks like after a good rain. All right, so I'm back here by the beds. You might remember, but these 2 beds are dedicated to strawberries. They are 7 foot by 2 foot. They are a galvanized steel material. And so I wanted to put perennials here. I think they're just kind of a statement piece here in the corner of my garden. I did throw 2 eucalyptus plants at the end of this one, but I will probably move those. Eucalyptus is not actually hardy in my zone, so I'm probably gonna put them in a container so I can bring them inside. These weeds are already gonna get the best of me already. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the strawberries in, and then I'll take you around the garden. There is something so magical about the garden right after a storm. It might be my favorite time to be in the garden after the storm is settled and there's just a moment of calm and quiet. It's my favorite place to be. So I want to show you. I want to show you why this is my favorite place after a storm. So I'm going to take you to the front and let's walk through the garden. Someday this is going to be stunning. I keep telling myself that because for now it's pretty darn empty, but these are beautiful giant red roses, and they're climbing varieties, so they should, in theory, start to climb. I have a second climbing variety over here. He's not doing quite as good. He's got a little bit of damage, but he's still alive, just growing a little bit. So someday I'll stand here and this will just be gorgeous. A gorgeous entry into the garden. For now, it's a little lackluster, but it's okay. You guys can see the vision, right? So in this first bed, as we enter, we have my tomatoes. So we actually have tomatoes in a lot of these beds, but this is the largest tomato bed that I have. I've got my pink boar tomatoes. I've got my Brad's Atomic Grape. Now, we weren't huge fans of Brad's Atomic Grape tomatoes last year, but we're gonna give it a try again. I actually marked all of the varieties in my garden, so I'm pretty proud about that. That is definitely not usually my MO. I do have some Solar Flare tomatoes. Those did really well for us last year. They're really beautiful. They're a Baker Creek variety that's got this like orange and yellow striping. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And they taste really good too. They're not too seedy, and they're a little bit sweet. They're a good size. They're kind of a handheld size. I've got some black cherry. The black cherry are a new variety to me of cherry tomatoes, which I'm excited about. And then I have Barry's Crazy Cherry tomatoes, which I am so excited. I was talking to my friend Jill over at Whispering Willow Farm, and she was telling me that she had Barry's Crazy Cherry in her garden, and literally she would have to go out to harvest with a 5-gallon bucket. Now that is my type of tomato, so I'm very excited about those. Then when we turn, this first long bed is actually all asparagus. So I don't expect much from this bed. In fact, I already need to weed it, which is just nuts. The weeds, they just don't ever give up. Today I'm gonna check and make sure that none of the crowns came uncovered. We did have that really big storm, and I can tell some of the soil washed away a little bit, so I'll make sure that all the crowns are covered. What we'll do this year, obviously we won't harvest this year, we won't harvest next year. This year what we'll do is, as they start to pop up, I'm actually gonna mound them with soil. So you want to continue to do that for the first like 4 to 6 weeks that there's new growth, and then you just let them grow and you let them go to seed essentially. So this whole bed we will not touch this year, other than adding that additional soil. And I mean, this bed in general, we had some issues with the construction of these long beds. They're a little bit wonky. We're gonna leave it for now. Next year we might actually just remove the wood, use it for something else, and just have these be like above ground beds. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Then over here I have my onions. I have 2 beds of onions and then a bed of garlic. These are delicious. We've been kind of eating on them as we go. They're getting pretty large. You can see, let's see if we can get in there. You can see they're bulbing up nicely. I've been just going around as I see them ready and just spooning around them, which just literally means you can take a spoon and do it, or just do it with your finger, and just like uncovering around them so that there's a little bit of room for them to continue to bulb. But these look really great. I could harvest these right now. I'm gonna leave them in. I succession sow onions. It's great in our zone. We can grow onions all year round. So these actually went in the ground in the fall and they're ready to harvest now. I'm gonna leave them in, and then I'll do my next round of onions probably in early June. So I'll give them another month here, continue to spoot them, let them get really big. I will let them cure. These are storage onions. So I'll let them cure, and then I will store them, and we'll continue to eat on them. And then, like I said, once I go in June, we'll actually be ready to harvest in the fall, and then we start it all over. So theoretically, we'll have onions, you know, all year round. And then my garlic is looking really good. It's looking wonderful. Very happy garlic. And so I'm gonna take you back over this way. So the second long bed that we have here, this is my pepper bed. So as of right now, all of the peppers over here are in this bed. I did sow them pretty close together. So this is not advisable, right? Most people you talk to would say don't sow 3 rows in a 3-foot bed. But this is how I've always done my peppers, and I always get a really good yield. The only thing you have to be cautious of is that the middle row is more established than the sides, so that it actually grows up and gets enough sun. We have in the past had like younger plants in the middle, and what happens are on the sides they just kind of like canopy over, and then those middle peppers don't grow. So what I did is I purchased a couple of starts. Most of these I started from seed. A couple of them, I guess 9 of them I bought. So the ones I bought I put in the middle. They're a little bit older and more established. So this all looks really good. I've got a ton of varieties. We make hot sauce. So Kevin has his famous hot sauce. I actually have a video on it if you want to check that out. But he makes Sugar Rush Peach hot sauce that is to die for. So we've got some Sugar Rush Peach peppers, obviously. We actually did not put any cayennes in. That was a total oversight of mine. We're gonna do the cayennes over at our current house because I don't have space right now in the garden. See, you'll run out of room no matter how big your garden is. But I have sugar rush peach. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have a lot of sugar rush peach. And then it kind of transitions into banana peppers. We do a lot of those because Kevin pickles them. We do cowboy banana peppers, which are like a caramelized like sugar. Oh, they're so good. They're similar to cowboy jalapenos. I do have jalapenos in here. I have some sweet banana peppers. I have some poblanos. I'm also growing a lot of jalapenos, actually. I'm growing pumpkin on a stick, which is more for decoration, but it's actually a pepper. They look like little pumpkins. They're so cute. Somebody actually sent those seeds to me, so I'm growing those. I've got a couple of, what is this? I have arroz con pollo again. Let's see what else I've got in here. Got a lot of banana peppers, man. I like forget how many I put in the ground. I've got some habanada, some corbaci, and I have some Italian long peppers as well. So all of those look good. I did have some issues with my peppers germinating this year. I didn't get any pimentos to germinate, and I didn't get any shishitos to germinate, which is such a bummer because I really was looking forward to both of those. So I might see if I can find them locally if somebody else has started them. I did throw some more seeds in, but I have low hopes. I'm thinking I just got a bad batch of seeds. So turning you over here, I have my herb planters. So I have 2 herb planters. They actually, so I think I've told you guys before, this garden is sitting on a site that a house used to be on. So the previous owners of this property took the house down, added topsoil, and called it a day. Well, it gets perfect sun and it's kind of an unusable space for anything else. We knew we weren't gonna build our house here. So it became my garden, which means we have to build up in this space. We can't actually dig down. I couldn't till this land because there's just a lot going on under the surface. We did do a soil test and everything like that, and everything looks good. It's just there's a lot of rock and stone and, you know, old pipes and things like that. So in an effort to not have to deal with any of that, we've built up, but we do have some things like this is the old, this used to be the I think this is the septic cover. So I'm kind of dealing with that in the garden space. So what I did is I put these herb planters to the sides and I put a container with garlic in the middle, and it actually became kind of a focal point for the garden. So I like to do things like that, like take a space that seems like, what would you do with this? Like why is this here? And like you feel like you have to cover it up and actually like make it a focal point. I think that makes a really interesting garden. So in the herb bed, I have some thyme here. This thyme will actually carpet out and really become a lovely accessory to this space. It's very fragrant. It'll actually go ahead and just kind of like fall over the sides. I paired it with mint. So thyme and mint are both very aggressive varieties and they're somewhat invasive. Don't put mint in your garden unless you're willing to let it stay there forever. That's my best advice. I'm willing to let it stay there forever. And I also know that the thyme is gonna choke it out. So I put them both in here. You can see the mint has already, they were the same size. The mint is already thriving. So I might, you know, cut it back a little bit, but there's nothing better than having fresh herbs in your garden. I love to bring a bottle of water out here and drop some mint in. Sometimes I'll drop like rosemary or lavender in and then shake it up, and it just has a great flavor. I love it. I've also got some nasturtiums over here, and then I have sage, and then I'm really excited about this. Right, so this is my holy basil, and I am getting great germination. Look at all these little babies. Can you see them all? There you go. They're germinating, yay. I'm super excited about that. Holy basil is also known as tulsi. It's really fragrant. It's a really like rich and aromatic basil. Very excited to have it in the garden. And then that I'll just let reseed year over year. So I don't plan on, you know, sowing these beds again. And then on this side, I did direct sow some lavender before our last frost. And it looks like I'm getting a little bit. Having a couple germinate. There's one right there. That might be the only Lone Ranger. But as you know, lavender takes forever. I also have lavender starts here that I need to put in the garden. They are way too wet right now. I'm gonna actually dump this water. We got that horrible rain, and what that means is that anything I left out here is just swimming. So this is all lavender. So these are obviously established. I need to go ahead and just throw them in there. But I wanted to see what happened to the seeds I put in first. All right, so continuing down over here, I've got, that's just a random tomato I need to put away. But I have a new rosemary here. So I have rosemary at the house that I'm going to bring over. But you can never have too much rosemary. So I brought that here. And then moving down, something is munching on it, but I've got basil. I got a ton of basil here. And then I actually have a variegated basil variety as well. And then moving down, I've got my dill and some parsley, and I haven't planted this side yet. I keep pausing to call for Robin. I haven't seen him today. It's like the hardest adjustment to having a barn cat is that like he wanders and he kind of does what he wants, and I miss him when he's not with me in the garden. He's my garden friend. Okay. So now we're over by these 6x6 foot beds. So we were just over there at the herb planters, and now we've got these 3 6x6 foot beds. So in this first one, I actually have 3 artichokes, and they all look really good. They transplanted really well. Artichokes are a little bit tricky because they kind of fool you like they're gonna die during the germination process. I think at just about every stage, I thought I was gonna lose them, but they look great. And then I went ahead and planted dahlias in this section too. So there's a bunch of tubers in the ground that will bloom and be gorgeous. Over here, I've got more tomatoes. So these are most of my canning tomatoes. These are San Marzano. Oh, he heard me. You see him over there? Come here, Robin. Here, kitty, 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 kitty. That's the best. That just made my day. But these are my San Marzano. Also, this just gave me a heart attack. So I looked down and saw that stick and thought it was a snake, and then realized it's right next to that giant hole. If you've been around here a minute, you know that I'm not a snake fan. I wear big boots all the time in hopes of not encountering a snake. So I know they're here. I welcome them here. They take care of the pests, but like, I don't want to see them. Anyways, these are my San Marzano tomatoes. They're our primary canning and storage tomatoes. They're great for sauces and things like that. So this bed's kind of devoted to that. I'm going to throw some zinnia seeds in the middle. I just haven't done that yet. So it's hard for me to reach in the middle of these 6x6 beds. So that's a good option. And then over here, I have kind of the reject tomato pile. These are all of the extras that I had. They're not actually marked, so I don't know what varieties they are, and they're in here with my tomatillos. So I've got my row of tomatillos in the back. I've got 2 purple and then 3 regular green tomatillos. So those are the 6 foot beds. And then I have my first 2 in-ground no-till beds, and these are planted with sweet potatoes. I'm gonna be honest, I'm really disappointed in these slips. I got them from the urbanfarmer.com. I've gotten seeds from them before and they were wonderful. I got my asparagus from them and it looks great. It hasn't sprouted yet, but it looks great. But man, these arrived pretty dead and they're just not looking hot. We got a lot of rain, so I'm gonna see what happens. If they don't look good in the next couple of weeks, I'll rip them out and try to find some more to plant. Unfortunately, you know, I don't love to have to like redo things in the garden, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So to come, I'm gonna actually have 2 more rows here, and that's gonna be for squash and melons. That is not done yet, obviously. And then there's another section we're gonna do behind the 6 foot beds all the way down to the tree line. That's gonna be another in-ground spot like this. And I'm gonna put all of my potatoes. So I'm gonna do probably 3 rows this size of potatoes, and then probably 2 more rows of squash and melons. I have a lot of squash and melon varieties that I want to grow this year, so I just want to make sure that we create enough space for those. So then moving over here, and the other thing is this. So this is a 12 foot bed. I'm gonna have on the squash and melon rows, I'll have another arch trellis that comes out into that row so that anything viney will be able to vine right back in. So this bed is not planted yet. I'm gonna do some beans. I'm actually gonna get those in the ground. I really need to go. I'm kind of late, but I might do it today. If I don't do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. Get some beans in there so that they can grow up that trellis. Yeah, I would probably get the beans in there tomorrow. And then I'll do some like personal melons and things like that. And then I've got 2 more trellises coming to join the garden this year. I might add more next year, but for now we're just gonna do 4 of the cattle panel trellises. So over here, again, I'll do those. I'm actually thinking about doing a cucumber teepee instead of doing my cucumbers up over the trellis. I love these trellises, and the way we have them, they're 3 feet apart. So they're about 7 feet tall. I can't reach the top, which is not super ideal. Really, you want to be able to like reach the top so you can harvest. But most of what I'm going to grow will hang down. I want to do some Tramontino squash, Kajari melons, all of my beans. That's pretty much what I'll do on these arch trellises. And then the other squash and melons, I'm just going to let them kind of ramble about in their own space. So moving over here to this bed, this is the second 12-foot bed here. You guys were with me when I did the patch of onions. They're starting to come up. So I've got obviously some of this stuff, but the onions are starting to come up. Those are going to look great. My leeks are starting to come up down the side, and my carrots are starting to come up. I'm seeing a lot of them, just kind of like little baby carrots starting to pop up. Hi, bud. Did you hear me talking about you? I was wondering where you went. So basically with this bed and with the other 12-foot bed, well, a little bit less so in the other one, because the other 12-foot bed will actually have arch trellises on both sides. But with this bed, because the trellis is on one side, I had the other side that I could plant freely with whatever I wanted. So I did carrots, leeks, and some bunching onions there. And then on the other side, I'll do obviously the things that climb. And in the middle, I'll probably do some zinnias or things like that. Also worth noting, I still don't have any of my corn or my sunflowers in yet. I'm doing all of those on the border of that in-ground garden. So I'm gonna have Kevin do another bunch of compost in the back, and I'll do some corn there and sunflowers, and then do it along the side as well. So it kind of like borders that area. I think it's gonna be really beautiful. So we're getting there. I've got these 6x6 beds. So I have 6 of them. 1, 2, 3 of them have tomatoes and dahlias, different varieties. Again, I marked most of what I'm growing this year. I'm doing a lot of different like eat as they ripen type varieties and fun varieties. I've got a lot of cherry tomatoes. So I got like sweeties. I also have some yellow pear. I did do red zebra again, and Dr. Witchy's, and a couple other like big boy tomatoes and things like that. So tried to get a good variety of tomatoes and also sizes. Our family loves tomatoes, so it's a good thing to have kind of in the garden. Robin, what are you doing? You doing a garden tour with me? He really is the sweetest. I don't know how I lived this long without a garden cat, but this is one of my Brassica beds. So I have 2 Brassica beds. The Brassica beds obviously will be done soon-ish. By time July rolls around, it'll be too hot here for most of these, so I will have already harvested them, and then I'll be out ready to plant something new in them. I will succession plant tomatoes in these, most likely. Maybe something else, but most likely tomatoes. So these look great. These are cabbage. They're a Napa cabbage hybrid. They're looking really good. There's some pest damage, but not too bad. I did go ahead and plant some chard around them. We're gonna harvest that as baby chard. This is a purple spinach. It's a red oric spinach, actually, sorry. It's really delicious. It's a little bit more bitter on the spinach scale. It's got a really like earthy and savory flavor. I really like it. It's a great addition to salads. I like it mixed with regular spinach. It's also really good sauteed. So I'm growing that. I am also going to be growing another variety of spinach, and now it escapes me, but someone sent me a different variety that I have never grown before, and I'm going to be growing that on one of my trellises. I've got my broccoli and my cabbage. Those are all looking good. I'm hoping, I got them in a little bit late. I'm hoping they have time to, head up before it gets too warm. But this bed is kind of a leftover bed. This guy is a weed. Ugh. Ooh, lots of ants in here. So this is another one of the cabbage. This is a broccoli. This is a cauliflower. And then I've got some of my kale over here as well. So I've got dino kale, and I've got some scarlet kale, and then just some random brassicas that I had left over. So moving down over here, this is the first bed that I actually had planted here. You might remember from some of the earlier tours. So this is my lettuce, beets, and there's some spinach in this bed as well. So I've got the Merlot lettuce. It's looking really good, starting to head up. These are butter crunch, and they're looking really good. I actually just recently realized that there's two over there. One snuck through. My beets are looking good. They're starting to get bigger, which is wonderful. My cut lettuce, I've actually already harvested twice, and it's looking great. It's ready to be harvested again, actually. I should do that tomorrow morning. More beets. My spinach looks wonderful. We actually came over. Oh, it's so sweet. We actually came over and harvested some spinach and an onion and made breakfast this weekend, which was really fun. And then I've got more tomatoes here. I've got the champagne bubble tomatoes here in this row. They were a new variety to me from MI Gardener, and I'm really excited about them. They're supposed to be really sweet and a little bit tart on the end, which sounds interesting. I'm excited about it. In this bed right here, I have a lone extra tomato that I just couldn't not plant. So there's that. And then I also have my ground cherries. So I have 5 ground cherries in here. Like I said in another video, they're always really small when I transplant them. I never think that they're going to survive, and then they always take off and do great. So I'm not worried about those. In this second bed, I've got my ginger. So my ginger is looking pretty good. There's some damage. I don't think it likes how much rain that we've gotten, because it was looking great and now it's looking a little bit rough. So I think it'll do better once it starts to dry out. Hopefully there's good enough drainage here. This is just a compost bed, so could be hit or miss. And then at the end of this bed, I put in some lavender. And so those are all pretty established lavender plants. Moving over here, I have my elephant garlic that's actually starting to scape already, which is just crazy. I gotta see what you do with elephant garlic scapes. I don't know. I'll have to Google that. And then I've got some more garlic down that way. And then over here, I originally was gonna plant here. It actually stays too dry, and everything I planted there died. So that's that. So that's everything we're growing in this potager garden. So far, we still have to finish some beds, but it's really coming along. I'm really excited about the amount of food that we're gonna be growing here. I am actually going to be weighing all of the food that we harvest this year to get a good idea of how many pounds of food we're able to grow in this space. So we have about 650 square feet of in-ground garden, or raised bed garden space here, and then about 2,000 square feet of like in-ground no-till garden space once everything is finished. That's about how much it'll be. So that's like 2,700 square feet of garden space. That's a lot of space. I'm thinking we're going to be able to produce a lot of pounds of food, especially because we're dedicating a pretty large portion of that space to squash and melons, and obviously those are pretty heavy. So I'm really excited to kind of see what happens there. And then walking down, I'll show you guys in another video. We want to do a whole farm tour here in the next couple of days to give you an idea of everything that's happening here on the farm. But you can see our orchard actually starts here at the front of the property as well. And so the first trees are right over here, and then they go down the property that way. There's about 20 fruit trees. We're going to be covering those because it's the year of the cicadas, and they're young, and so you have to cover them. I bought some tulle netting that should be here in the next couple of days, and I'll be able to cover those up. Now, the reason that you want to cover your fruit trees with tulle netting is that cicadas actually will lay their eggs in the young wood on a tree. And when your trees are young, that can kill them. So we're gonna make sure to do that. And then over here, I've got my row of fig trees. I've got 5 fig trees. And then this front area of the property here, it's really flat. Eventually, I'd like this to all be part of the garden. So we're not this year. We're not going to be expanding the garden quite this much this year. You can see how much space that is. It's almost double the garden space that we have right now. The in-ground beds are probably going to come to like right there, like just probably like 10 or 15 feet out. I'm probably 50 feet out. So It's a lot of room to grow, and I'm really excited about what that means. Love that. Anyways, finally, down here we have our row of blueberries. So I've got 24 blueberry plants. They all look really great. They're growing really well. We're gonna have a lot of food on this front portion of the property. Just for reference, this front portion is about an acre, maybe a little bit over an acre. It slopes from where I'm standing, it slopes down to the road. Gets great sun. We're really blessed with this property. So that's what the garden is looking like. And it is absolutely stunning after a storm. Everything has perked up and taken the drink that it needed. And it gives me so much hope for how much food we're going to be able to produce in this space for us and for the people around us, and to sustain our animals. There's just so much opportunity here. And I'm excited that you're sharing it with us. So, thank you. Thank you for growing with us. Thank you for joining me in the garden. You always have a place here. Until next time.